And maybe I should reference 132 as well. These questions refer to the stun fence, correct?
Correct.
And in question 133, you were asked if you were aware of the concerns with the stun fence prior to the escape, correct?
Correct.
And in question 134, you were asked if there was anything done to address those concerns, correct?
Correct.
And you stated, quote, "I did not do anything," unquote, correct?
Correct.
You also admitted that you had no recollection of telling Doug Percy about the improperly installed stun fence, correct?
I said I didn't remember if I did.
Okay, but you had no recollection of whether you did, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Judge, if you could now go to page, same exhibit 12, page 529 for me, please.
All right, we're on response exhibit 12, page 529.
Again, Ms. Novak, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
What do you recognize it to be?
Investigatory interview of myself when I was the subject on 6/5/2020.
Okay. Judge, if you could go to page 530, I'm looking for question and answers number 6, please.
All right, we're on page 530, question 6. Go ahead.
Ms. Novak, could you just read that to yourself and let me know when you're done, please?
Okay.
So again, that question just deals with the stun fence, correct?
Correct.
So directing your attention to question and answer number 7, could you read that for me? Not out loud, just to yourself, and let me know when you're done, please.
Yes.
So in question 7, you were asked if there was anything that you could have, well, let me rephrase. In question 7, you were asked if the stun fence was something you could have inquired about, and your response was, quote, "I could have, but so could have 10 wardens before me," unquote, correct?
Correct.
So you did nothing to address the stun fence, correct?
Yeah, I could have inquired about anything there, I guess.
But you did not, correct?
I
As far as the stun fence is concerned?
No, because it was already talked about through administration years prior.
I'm going to object to that. It assumes facts not in evidence. And I move to strike that answer, Judge.
Sustain, please, Miss.
On what grounds is that sustained?
I am sustaining because she went beyond what he asked. He asked her the question. She added more information. No.
She's allowed to answer, but she's allowed to give her answer.
She's allowed to give her answer, but not to keep adding more stuff that then becomes a problem. Again, you're here. If you want to ask her more questions, you can. Go ahead.
Sure, but he can't cabin her answer to what he wants her answer to be. Her
That's what
answer is her answer. If she has more to give,
No,
a complete answer, if she can do that.
She's on cross. She's directed to answer the questions that are asked and nothing more. So again, I think she went beyond that. So go ahead, please.
Ms. Novak, after the escape, you became aware that there were several issues with the stun fence in addition to this. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. After the escape, you became aware that there were several issues with the security fence in addition to the stun fence being improperly installed, correct?
I became aware of one issue, yes.
What is that issue?
That the inner fence was not alarming to the control center.
And you were aware that there was supposed to be weekly security tests done on the stun fence or on the security fence, correct?
Yes.
And you became aware that those weekly security tests were not being completed?
I don't recall that because They tested it the day before, and that's how they knew it wasn't working.
In 2020, CCI had a computer related to the weekly security tests of the fence that printed off reports related to those tests, correct?
Can you repeat that?
Sure. In 2020, CCI had a computer related to the weekly security tests of the fence that printed off reports related to those tests, correct?
I believe so.
Judge, if you could go Exhibit 12, page 504 again for me, please. Again, Ms. Novak, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
What do you recognize it to be?
Investigatory interview of myself when I was the subject on 5/28/2020.
And Judge, if you could go down to page 517, I'm going to focus on question and answers 94 and 95.
All right, we're on page 517 of response exhibit 12, and we have questions 94 and 95.
Actually, I'm sorry, Judge. One preliminary quick thing. If you could go up to 92 and 93. And Ms. Novak,
Okay.
could you just, sorry. Ms. Novak,
ahead.
if you could just read question and answer 92 and 93, please.
Okay.
So that deals with the security checks that are supposed to be conducted on the fence, at least with respect to 92, correct?
Yes.
And 93, they ask you who's supposed to be completing those tests, and you responded the maintenance department, correct?
Correct.
Is the maintenance department buildings and grounds, or what is the maintenance department?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, if I could direct your attention to questions and answers 94 and 95, please, if you could just read those and let me know when you're done.
Okay.
So essentially in those questions, you were asked if you knew that the computer that prints off the weekly reports of the fence tests have been broken since January 2020, correct?
Correct.
And you responded, quote, no, in fact, I'm just hearing that now, unquote, correct?
Correct.
And directing your attention to question and answer 96, if you could just read that to yourself, please, and let me know when you're done.
Okay.
So essentially in the answer to, well, this deals with the security fence, correct? This question and answer?
Yes.
And you acknowledge that the security fence is, quote, pretty important part of the institution, correct?
Correct.
Okay. CCI's Correctional Management Services Director, also known as the CSMD, normally supervises buildings and grounds, correct?
Correct.
And I think we had established earlier, but I'll just ask it again. The buildings and ground staff is responsible for ensuring that the security fence is in proper order and that the weekly tests are being conducted, correct?
Yes.
Judge, if you could go to page 529 for me, please.
All right, we're on page 529 of response exhibit 12. Go ahead.
Again, very briefly, Ms. Novak, could you just tell me what this is, this document?
Investigatory interview.
And what's the date?
6/5/2020.
So you're a subject at this point?
Yes.
And Judge, if you could go down to page 531, I'm focused on questions and answers just 9, I think, at this point.
All right, we are on page 531 of Respondents Exhibit 12, question 9. And before you answer, you said what CMSD D meant, but I didn't catch that. Could you say it again, please?
Yes, it's Correctional Management Services Director.
And you agree with that, Ms. Novak?
Yes,
And who is that person? They were in charge of the people who were the maintenance and building people?
yes.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Among other things, I'm sorry, but one of their supervisory duties was the Buildings and Grounds Department.
Okay, so they had a broader authority than that.
Yes,
Okay, go ahead then, please.
Ms. Novak, have you had a chance to read over question and answer 9?
yes.
This is answering my question. Please read it again to make sure you did read it.
Yeah, if you,
Yes.
yeah, okay. And question and answer 9, well, it deals with the CMSD, and you had acknowledged that the CMSD at CCI had been vacant since April 1st, correct?
Correct,
And that's April 1st, 2020?
correct.
Okay. Judge, if you could go back just one page up on page 530, I'm looking for question and answer 3. I'm actually going to be dealing with 4 as well, so right there might be good.
Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Novak, if you could read questions and answers 3 and 4, and let me know when you're done, please.
Okay,
So in question 3, or in this series of questions, you were essentially asked who supervised buildings and grounds in the absence of the CSMD, correct?
correct.
And then in answer 4, you could not recall if it was you directly or Deputy Warden Weber. Is that correct?
Correct.
Can you recall now who supervised them directly?
No, like I said, they had many, many duties that we split up amongst different supervisors.
So did you supervise a portion of that?
I might have, there was an email that went out to all staff, and like I said, it was I had it on my bulletin board, but since I wasn't allowed to look at it, I can't say who it was
Okay.
for sure.
Okay. Ms. Novak, in the weeks prior to the escape, CCI was looking into kitchen worker Holly Zimdahl, correct?
Like looking at her, can you explain?
Well, I believe you testified to this yesterday. You thought that she may have engaged in some misconduct?
There were some allegations, yes.
Okay. And you were looking into her because both PIOCs and civilian kitchen staff reported that Ms. Zimdahl was engaging in misconduct. Is that accurate?
Yes, I remember 1 or 2 inmates and 1 kitchen worker alleging, yes.
Just one?
Yes,
Okay. Judge, if you could go to Exhibit 12, page 550 for me, please.
All right, we're on page 550, response exhibit 12. Go ahead.
Again, Ms. Novak, if you could just describe what this document is, please.
an investigatory interview of myself as witness for 2020.
Okay. Judge, if you could go to page 559, I'm going to be focused on question and answer 82.
All right, so you said 82.
That's correct, Judge.
All right, we're on page 82 of response exhibit 12. Go ahead.
Ms. Novak, could you just read that to yourself and let me know when you're done, please?
Yes, okay.
So in summary, this question 82 essentially asked you what information you had that sparked a preliminary investigation to Ms. Zimdahl, correct?
Correct.
And you stated that both PIOCs and civilian kitchen staff made allegations against Ms. Zimdahl, correct?
What? Where did she say Pyx? Where's
She
I don't
doesn't,
know
that's
if
my
you got-
term.
Okay, could
Let's be
you,
accurate for the record, please.
Is that accurate, Ms. Novak?
We asked the question again. I got lost now, so please.
Yeah, well,
try again.
just to make it clear, when I say PIOCs, it refers to persons in our care. So it's essentially the same as saying inmates was how they were previously referred to.
Did you understand that, Ms. Novak?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So, Ms. Novak, in that answer, you stated that both PIOCs and civilian kitchen staff made allegations against Ms. Zimdahl, correct?
It says inmates and a staff member, yes.
Right, okay. So could you, directing your attention to question and answer 83, it's a bit lengthy, so if you could just please read that over and let me know when you're done, please.
Okay.
So in answer 83, you sort of explained some of the information that you had against Ms. Zimdahl, correct?
Correct.
And you explained that Carolyn Wood, a civilian kitchen employee, reported that Zimdahl was spending too much time in the kitchen coolers with PIOCs, correct?
Correct.
And civilian kitchen workers are not supposed to go into the coolers with PIOCs, correct?
Correct, but they do it all the time. There are allegations to the contrary that Zimdahl was saying that about Wood also.
You also explained that Kalanda Garfoot, a civilian food service leader in the kitchen, reported that she saw Zimdahl in the cooler handing a PIOC what appeared to be small bottles, correct?
Yes.
And in that same answer, he also stated that you watched a kitchen surveillance video. Is that accurate?
I watched, yeah, there's cameras down there all hours of the day. I watched a portion of, yeah, one day, I think. Yeah.
And you explained that in the video that you watched, you saw Zimdahl leaning forward with a PIOC in a manner that you, quote, were really concerned about, unquote. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And you also stated that the video, quote, corroborated, unquote, the allegations that were made against Ms. Zimdahl, correct?
Correct.
Judge, if you could, again, in Exhibit 12, go to page 567 for me, please.
Excuse me there. Are we, when you say it says some of that was corroborated, did you say that it was corroborated?
Well, was some of that corroborated? You said that in your answer, correct, Ms. Novak?
Yeah, some of that was corroborated. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you didn't specify, but you certainly acknowledged that the video corroborated at least some of the allegations that were made, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
569, you said?
567, Judge.
All right, we're on Respondents Exhibit 12, page 567. Go ahead.
So I don't believe we've used this one yet. So if you could just, do you recognize this document?
Yeah, another investigatory interview.
And what was the date of the interview?
4/28/2020.
And you were not a subject at this point, correct?
No, it says witness.
Okay. Judge, if you could,
Okay, 1 second before we go on, just the
Sure.
point of trying to figure out what we're doing. It's about 5:29. You said it would be an hour and a half, so we're about that time. You have a lot longer. Should we break for lunch? What are you doing?
well, I do have a little bit more to go. So if we want to break for lunch now, I'm not going to object to that.
Okay, and is it a lot longer after lunch?
Well, I thought I'd be done with it by now, and I would say that it's going to be probably another 45 minutes after lunch. So yeah, it's not going to be quick.
Then we'll take lunch. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so what about 1 o'clock? Is half an hour good enough, Mr. Cross?
Sure. Is that good enough for you, Ms. Novak? Do you need to rest more?
Oh, that's plenty of time.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
and Ms. Mullenbach, that's fine.
I'll see you then.
Okay, 105. I'm giving you 105. All
Great.
right, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you.
I'll stop sharing. Stop the recording.